Hello everyone, I've got good news. The recipient just got a positive yesterday, and this is one that I've already been very involved with the kids, so I expect to actually get to keep contact with this child, which is not something I force, but it's definitely something I prefer when I can get it, so I'm pretty excited. But that's unrelated to today's vlog, which is actually going to be a short one, I hope. I want to discuss a little bit about how to take advantage of reviews you can get from other recipients. The reason for this vlog comes back to an earlier one I had about projecting. It is not unheard of to be tempted to project on a donor to see what you want to see in a donor. This makes it a little harder than you'd expect to get feedback from recipients about donors they've already used, because those recipients will be prone to projecting on the donor and seeing what they want to see in the donor. This doesn't make these reviews worthless. There's still very good things to get when you can, but there's a few things you want to do to make the most out of a review you can get from a recipient who's previously used a donor. Before I even go into that, I do want to say, don't hold it against the donor if he doesn't have recipients available to give him a positive review. Unless the donor's had a number of successes, they may not have a recipient really give them a review, because most recipients don't really want to discuss their donor. Half of them don't want anyone to even know that they use the donor, very private. Even those that are theoretically willing, they're generally busy. And if the donor is at all considered to a recipient, he's not going to be willing to pester recipients to give him reviews. For instance, I myself, I believe all my recipients were happy using me. I don't believe there's been any complaints. But I have a hard time arranging for recipients to speak to someone who's previously used me, because I don't like inconveniencing my recipients that have already used me. So I have policies that I will put people in contact, but not until I've already spoken with them a little bit, decide whether or not donations even feasible, so I don't waste the time if there's women I've already helped by having them speak to someone I'm never going to agree to donate to, or where scheduling wise it won't be possible, whatever. So the point is, if a donor is considered to recipients, he's not going to bully them into providing reviews for him, and therefore a donor who doesn't have a lot of successes, who's somewhat new, who's had less than, say, 5 successes, may very well not be able to have a recipient speak to you to give him a review, and I wouldn't hold that against him. However, it's always good to ask. If you can get it, it's a nice to have. It's definitely an advantage. Just don't penalize the donor too much if he can't provide it. Unless, of course, he's been an extremely successful donor with 20-some successes, then he probably has at least one. Also keep in mind, donors aren't going to put you into contact with recipients that are angry with them. So if a donor is picking his recipients to speak with you, you're going to get someone picked to give him a positive review. It's still good to speak to them, but you can't just say, was he a good donor, because of course they're going to say yes. So now, what do you want to look for in reviews? And keep in mind when I say this, I'm also referring to reviews on KDR, Known Donor Registry's website. They have a review section. I'm glad they have it, but there's things you want to consider. If you're reading a review from Known Donor Registry on one of those reviews, or just anywhere else really, do not put heavy weight in any review that says, he's a wonderful donor, I'm glad we used him, because that doesn't mean much. Every woman's going to say that. They feel that they owe the donor so much for having a success, and they're going to say that he was great. Everyone will. They can project on the donor. They feel that they owe the donor a lot. They're not going to give a negative review. Very few women who've had a success are going to say he's a bad donor. So I don't put much weight onto that. Are these reviews still useful? Yes. If the donor has quite a few positive reviews, that could be one thing. However, there's 2 classes of donors. One will pressure women to review them, and the other won't. And so sometimes more questionable donors, well, not even questionable, average donors might have lots of wonderful reviews, whereas great donors may actually have fewer reviews, because the average donors are asking recipients to review them and kind of pushing them to do it, and the wonderful donors don't inconvenience recipients by asking. And so number of reviews doesn't mean as much. It's positive, but what you really want to look for is quality of review. And the biggest thing you want to look for is, what does a woman say about the donor? There's a star rating that you can give a donor. It means nothing. In fact, I would feel more positive about a woman who gave a donor a 4.5-star review than one who gave a donor a 5-star review. Because 4.5 stars means a woman actually gave some thought to this and is just giving 5 stars because she has success and she feels she's owed some. So I give more weight to that 4.5-star review. But what you really want to look for, what does she say about the donor? So first off, how does she know the donor? Does she say how long she spoke to this donor? Does she say she spoke to other donors? What does she give you to give you a sense that she spent time screening this donor rather than jumping in the first donor that's available? And that's a good starter question. How do you know this donor? To be honest, most reviews don't actually say that. However, if you get to speak to a donor or a recipient in person who's previously used a donor, definitely ask, how did you find this donor? And maybe ask explicitly, maybe just ask around the question, but say basically, how many other donors did you speak with? Did you screen a lot of donors, or did you jump into this donor because he's the first available donor and you just used him without looking elsewhere? Generally, women who have done more thorough research, who have spoken to many donors, who had backup options but chose this donor above this other good backup, should be given higher weight because you know they actually really put in the real effort to know a donor and haven't just left in. Second thing you want to look for, what did a donor do above and beyond what every donor should do? Every recipient is going to say that a donor is knowledgeable about donation. Even if he isn't knowledgeable, because it's very easy for them to come across as knowledgeable. So don't put much weight into that. If everyone says he showed up for a donation and I had a success, that's standard. Every donor should do that. Saying he traveled 3 hours for a donation, that is better. But that's relative. That's a good to know that he has commitment. It's a positive, but not as positive as the thing. We have really great reviews. When I had a negative, he was there for me emotionally. He was positive. He was supportive. He provided emotional support for me. He didn't pressure me, or he even encouraged me to look at other donor options rather than trying to pressure me into using him. My kids like him. Not everyone wants a donor who's going to be involved in the kids, but if you're interested in a donor to have some contact with the child afterward, my kid likes him, can be a very positive view on many levels. It means the recipient got to know the donor to a decent degree if she's introducing her kids to him. It meant that the donor was decent with the kids. Even more than the kids liking him, it means that there is a certain level of contact involvement above and beyond what the donor does, which suggests that the woman knows the donor better. That's the other positive thing you can look for. What has the woman done with the donor? Did he show up for donations and leave? Did they Skype? Did they Skype regularly? The more thorough and complex the interaction between donor and recipient, the more trustworthy the recipient's reviews are. Did the donor do anything else above and beyond? I don't care what. Did he pet sit for you? Did he? Not that every donor needs to do that. That's a pretty high standard. But was he there for more than a donor? Did he provide information about how to screen other donors? Okay, most donors don't do that. Just, you want to look for above and beyond. You want to look for amount of contact involvement the recipient has actually had with the donor. Also keep an eye out for recipients that are excessively positive to the point that it might be questionable. There is a certain genre of recipient that will project extensively. Most everything's wonderful. I know one woman, for instance, who blatantly lied to me when I said, it looks like your donor has too many shipping successes. Do you know if he's holding off on shipping? Do you know if he's over shipping? I said it more politely than that, but she knew what I was implying, and she blatantly lied to me, which I know for a fact, because she was so committed on her donor. Now, that's not the average. That woman I've always known was fairly prone to projecting on donors anyways, but the point is, the more that woman can speak facts rather than opinion, the more she can back up what she says with actual hard details, the more you should trust her review. Ultimately, though, you want to measure donor on your own right. Recipients' reviews are primarily relevant for facts they can give you. This donor definitely did this, not their own feelings, because unless you know that recipient very well, it's hard to know how much to trust their own views. And the more that women like the donor, that's good, but ultimately make a decision based off of your experiences, your screening of the donor, and maybe off of hard facts the woman has told you that she knows the donor is done, but not off of her feelings or emotions of the donor, because the women feel a very strong amount of owing this donor they feel like they have to give the donor a positive review, and that can make it very hard to filter. On the other hand, on the other side, if a woman gives a donor a negative review, at least sit down and get facts for why she gave him a negative review. In particular, there's a certain category of recipient that expects way too much from a donor, who gets upset if the donor refuses to donate to them because, I don't know, they have they expect him to pay for shipping. That's a good one. I've seen that. They expect him to pay all the expenses for donation, to spend $100 or more every donation to cover the expenses so that they can use them. I've seen women who expected that and who got upset when a donor wasn't willing to agree to that. I knew one woman who's upset with me because I wanted to claim that I was my own sperm bank because she thought I could legally do that to allow me to do direct donation cheaper. It wasn't even legally possible. She wouldn't listen to me when I said that. This is by far a minority, but there's a small category of recipients who have absurdly high expectations for a donor, not in being good genetics, but expecting him to bend over backwards to do everything they want, and get upset if, say, he asks questions, or he refuses to donate to them because he doesn't think that they're financially ready to be parents, or he won't cover all the expenses for a directed donation. These sort of women are very easy to detect when it happens. The point is, just as you should ask for facts rather than opinion when it comes to positive reviews, when it comes to negative reviews, ask the woman, what did he do? Can you cite facts? Get hard details for whatever offense he did. Try to judge, is this really the donor doing something bad, or is this the woman having absurdly unrealistic expectations that the donor should do everything for her without her having to do anything? More often than not, negative reviews are more accurate because most women are actually afraid to give negative reviews and will only give them when a donor has clearly done something very wrong. Trust me, I've heard women come to me and tell me very negative things donors did. I said, please report it. They refuse to, no matter how much I ask them to. And so it's great. I know about it. And if a woman comes asking about that particular donor, I can say, yeah, he did such and such. But that's nowhere near as useful as posting a review so that everyone can see it. But that's all I can get women to do. So generally, women don't tend to give negative reviews unless they're accurate, but don't presume that. Always get the hard facts, and try to judge whether the woman is being honest and realistic in her expectations. And big thing is, don't just trust what women say. Ask for facts. Make your own judgment, because this is a very emotional decision for everyone. It's hard to judge from someone's emotions without those facts backing them up. That's everything I want to say. I told you it'd be short. With that, let me say, as always, good luck with your donor search, and I'll see you next time.